Hey guys, it's Rich with your Monday Spot in the Pagan Perspective, and I am an omnivore. Hey guys, as you can tell from the intro to this video, and as you can tell from the title and the thumbnail and everything else, this week we're talking about food. This week's topic is from Sarah, and I just have a couple caveats before getting into this topic, because whenever I saw this topic, I kind of cringed. I know that there are some hosts on here that have very different views from what I have and what other people on this collab have. So I just want to say that I hope this week we don't have any hair pulling or any gnashing of teeth or anything like that. So this is a great chance for us hosts to actually respectfully come to the table on a discussion and have very differing views, and also to give everybody something to think about, whether it's something that they agree with or not. So, I will also warn you that this video might be a little long, and there are food puns. So, with that, let's get started on this week's topic. As per usual, it will be down in the bottom bar. This week's topic comes from Sarah, and I have some of the abbreviated questions here on my note card because I'm not reading through the entire topic to you guys. It's kind of lengthy. So anyway, the first thing that I want to talk about is the thoughts on farming practices that are harmful to the planet and food additives. I really hate pre-processed foods. I dislike the pesticides that go onto vegetables and fruits that are being grown for consumption. I really don't like that idea. I think there are better ways to have pesticides than these types of chemicals that we're constantly putting on vegetables and fruits out there. So as far as pesticides and stuff like that, I kind of would stay away from those if at all possible. I know that some actually have benefits as to having a better crop, but whenever you really look at the trade-off, what are you getting versus what are you leaving behind? So if you are a farmer, I'd really like to get your input on that, and if there's any alternate way of having these crops grow in a fruitful manner but not be using these chemicals. So as far as chemicals being put on the food, not really giving me a warm fuzzy. Now for the genetically altering of fruits and vegetables, I don't like that either. I think that eating food in its natural state, as in, eating tomatoes fresh off the vine or something like that, it is a more healthy way of living to not have genetically altered types of foods. So for me, not really digging the GMO process. And for food additives, I hate looking on the back of any product and seeing the nutritional facts on there and seeing all those chemicals. Just thinking of what they're doing to my body does not give me a warm fuzzy. Now that does not mean that I won't consume these foods. I will eat just about anything, and being in the military, sometimes your food is made for you and you really don't have much of a choice in eating it. It's either that or you starve. So as far as the nutritional facts of having something that's pre-processed, sometimes it's unavoidable. However, I would rather have something that was cooked from scratch and you know exactly what is in there. So for me, food additives, not really a warm fuzzy for me. Another part of the question was fair trade versus locally grown. I would rather have something that's locally grown than something that is grown far away. As for local trade, again, it's something that's kind of unavoidable depending on where you shop and your price range. Sometimes it's not financially capable for you to buy something that is fair trade and costs double the money versus something that is not fair trade and is considerably cheaper. So sometimes that's an unavoidable part of life. For me, usually I try to buy whatever is the cheapest and healthiest. At least whenever I go shopping, that's what I try to do. Again, it's not something that's always capable of happening. Buying something that's fair trade, where the farmers that grow the crops or the people who work at the farm picking the crops will get more money. Yes, I would love to help the farmers and the harvesters of these different fruits, vegetables, even down to my coffee beans. I would rather help them get a couple extra bucks in their pocket than the 20 cents a day that they may make. However, whenever I go out and buy my coffee, let's say, it's not always capable for me to spend $10, $15 on something that's fair trade rather than the regular old Maxwell House that is, like $3 for a can. So for me, it's not always capable for me to spend that extra money on something that's fair trade. However, I do support the fair trade concept. I wish more companies were able to do fair trade with commodities. However, it's not always financially capable for people to buy those products. So if there is a capability to have fair trade and be around the same price as everything else, I would rather buy from a fair trade vendor. And like I said, ideally I would like to buy something that's locally grown, locally processed, rather than buy something that has been shipped in from far away. As you guys know, I have a small business. I would rather spend money at a small business than at a large conglomerate. So for me, that is something that is important. However, again, the financial aspect isn't always there, and the capability of buying those items are not always there. The next question that I have here is kitchen magic and food preparation. I do some sort of kitchen witchery whenever it comes to food preparation. Usually only putting my intent into whatever I'm stirring, whatever I'm making, putting my intent, stirring in a certain manner, or putting my intentions whenever adding certain ingredients. Putting that intention into my food and then consuming it is actually a big part of whenever I'm cooking. So for me, it has become part of my practice as far as kitchen witchery. That I am not a self-diagnosed kitchen witch, as that is not where I shine. I do respect people that have that ability. It's just I'm not that much of a cook. I do love to cook. I love to bake, but it's not something that I'm always capable of doing depending on time constraints and stuff like that. But it is something that whenever I do get around to cooking, that it is something that I really enjoy doing. Putting my intentions into food and stuff like that. So let's get into the real meat and potatoes of this week's topic, which kind of had me on edge and kind of has me fearful of seeing some of the videos this week. It might get a little heated, which is the dietary choices of our hosts, whether it's vegan, vegetarian, or omnivore. As I have already stated, I am an omnivore. I do like my veggies, and I do like the meat. And part of the question was about how does the read affect our dietary choices, and how do we feel about the ethical treatment of animals in these farming situations. I'm going to tackle the ethical treatment of animals first, and then get into the rest of the topic. When it comes to the ethical treatment of animals, I see the PETA videos, the ASPCA videos about how these animals are being mistreated. And yes, I agree, they are being mistreated. I think there are many different ways of having these animals ethically killed in order for us to consume them. The main problem that comes with it, again, comes down to the dollar, or whatever your currency is. Financially, it just makes more sense for these companies to mass produce these animals, to breed them, to feed them, and to slaughter them in a mass production sense. However, I am against that. In the same breath, I have to say that those are usually the more affordable meats for me to buy. So sadly enough, those are the meats that I kind of have to buy because it's in my price range. And then you may ask yourself, well, why don't you go to vegetarian or vegan? And the main reason that I have not gone vegetarian or vegan is primarily because, well, I like the meat, guys. For me, in the way that I see everything as a continuous food chain. If you think in the terms of reincarnation, you have things that have come into this lifetime in order to give a sacrifice of themselves so that we can consume it, and eventually for us to die and plants and other creatures to consume us. And to get a little bit Lion King on us, it's the circle of life, at least in the way that I see it. And also, I have to say, and this may sound frivolous, but I'm going to say it anyway, is where do you draw the line on something that's living? Is it plant or animal? And I know that this sounds silly, however, if you're killing a plant in order to eat it, yes, that plant can still grow at some other time, but you also put a lot of strain and you're hurting this plant. So for me, it's a matter of all things are living and all things are part of this circle of life. It's all part of that continuous cycle. So for me, being vegetarian or vegan is not something that I see as a life choice in my life, at least not in this moment. With that, I leave you guys for this week. It's going to, like I said, be a little bit heated of a week as far as this week's topic. I'm actually really excited to hear what the other hosts have to say. Next week is subs week. I'm actually really excited to hear what the subs have to say about next week's topic. So stay tuned for the rest of this week's topic and come back next week for the subs week next week. And I will see you guys next month, actually on May 30th. I will see you guys again. So until then, may you have love, hugs, and ladybugs. Bye-bye.